The Protestant Reformation in England happened for quite different reasons than it did in Switzerland and Germany. In England, the break with the Church occurred not for theological reasons, but because the king refused to accept a papal decision. The English king, Henry VIII, wanted a new wife, but since Catholicism forbids divorce, Henry had to ask the Pope to grant him an annulment, a decree stating that his existing marriage had never been valid. But the Pope refused, and when word of this reached the royal castle, Henry became so enraged that he decided to abolish papal authority. And in 1534, through the Act of Supremacy, he declared himself to be the supreme head of the Church in England. He divorced his wife and went on to marry 5 more times. It seems likely that Henry also severed his ties to Rome because the Church kept demanding more and more money from him, even though the Catholic monasteries already controlled 1/3 of the arable farmland in his kingdom. Henry desperately wanted control of that land, so in 1536 he decided that all English monasteries should be abolished. He ordered the monks to leave, declared that everything of value now belonged to him, had the roofs taken off the buildings, and let them fall into ruin. And by 1539, every one of England's over 500 monasteries was gone. Thus, through the dissolution of the monasteries, the king increased his wealth enormously, and by handing over some of this property to his aristocratic friends, he was able to greatly strengthen his political support throughout the kingdom. Oddly enough, unlike Luther and Calvin, Henry had no real problem with the basic teachings of the Church. He just hated being subservient to the Pope. Consequently, the services and sacraments of the Church of England differed very little from traditional Catholic practices. It was not until after King Henry's death that more radical religious changes were introduced. These included the adoption of both the Book of Common Prayer and Sacraments and of 42 articles of faith that spelled out the beliefs of the Church of England.